John Fitzgerald Kennedy once said, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." So we're talking about the 1680 revolt, the 1680 Pueblo revolt of northern New Mexico. We should thank the Pueblo Native Americans for kicking the Spanish out of New Mexico in 1680, and for 10 years, the Native Americans got to live their day in the sun. They got to live how they used to live before the Spanish had conquered them 82 years ago. The revolution is going to begin August 10th, 1680. August 10th and 11th, the revolution killed 400. 20% are going to get killed. 20% of all the Spanish. They're destroying all things Spanish. Their houses, their cloaks, their articles of clothing, their churches. All of the stupid Catholic bullshit just destructing. No indiscriminate killing or wanton destruction. Just destroy the damn Spanish and everything that the Spanish and the Catholics and them fucking piles of shit, destroy their religion, destroy them as people, get them the fuck up out of Dodge. No, they gotta go. They got to go. And you gotta wash off that baptism. You gotta jump into the river and wash all that shit. Get a mole. Wash off your Christianity. You gotta get that stink off of you guys. In the Santo Domingo Pueblo, they killed 3 missionaries. In the San Diego Pueblo, they destroyed the church. They took a bunch of shits on the altar. They flogged the Jesus statue. They left a statue of St. Francis, but they chopped the arms off with an axe. 21 of the 33 priests were killed. 21 of the 33 friar priests were all killed. Good night, Friar Tuck. Good the fuck night, Friar Tuck. And James Juan de Jesus, the Friar Juan de Jesus. They took him out to a candlelit cemetery and they stripped him naked. And they made him ride a pig. Well, ride a pig, you fucking pig son of a bitch. They got Juan de Jesus Friar, the priest. They made the priest get down on all fours. And they rode him like a pig. And they whipped him and rode him. And then they beat him up with war clubs until he died. The Hopi Pueblos in Arizona, the Orabi. The Orabi, remember that horse that ran over that poor Native American? They're going to go to the friar's house. There was only one Spaniard in there. He was huddled in the corner. Oh, you ain't so tough now. You sit there and enslaved the rest of us, and you ran over that fucking poor guy. You burned that. You put turpentine on that poor guy. You burned him. He went to walk away, and then you ran him over with the horse. The Hopis slashed the throat of the priest, of the friars. The Hopis are gentle and sweet. The Hopis are going to take the heart out of the Orabi, the Spaniard friar at Orabi. They slit his throat, they took out his heart, and then they threw his body down the mesa. The Hopis usually are gentle and sweet, so if you got on the bad side of the Hopis, well, you should fucking question yourself. The Hopis are sweet as pie. What the hell did you do? Francisco Xavier, that piece of shit. Popay, he had moved the revolution up one day because Nicholas Catua and Pedro Amtua, they were runners. 2 of Popay's runners were captured. And so they tortured the truth out of them. You know about the plot. Tell us about the plot. Now, I never got to the answers of these questions here. But Omaha, Nebraska, Grease, Milk, Crazy Horse, Killer Whale, and True. I feel like that's not the answers. Well, I'll tell you the answers of this one here, okay? So it's True. The cake is a tower of apple pie, Seattle. The bands led the grunge movement. Troy Smith, The Prophet, 20 adults have about 32 teeth, and Tarot. Which of these cities is not on the shores of the Mississippi River? St. Paul, Minnesota, New Orleans, Louisiana, or Omaha, Nebraska? What country are the hit musical and film Mamma Mia set? Greece. What white substance did Louis Pasteur make safe for us to drink? Milk. What band sharing its name with the Sioux chief is commonly associated with Neil Young? Crazy Horse. What is another common name for the orca? Killer whale. Keeshond is a breed of show dog. True or false? True. Keeshond is a breed of show dog. Yes, sir, Bob. So now let's go to Joseph de Trujillo. Joseph de Trujillo, this is a friar. This is a priest. He wanted to be a martyr. He was there in the Philippines. He was sitting there oppressing a bunch of brown people in the Philippines, and then he came to the United States and started oppressing brown people. Apparently that's all these fucking Catholics give a shit about. Exploitating, stealing, robbing, raping. They don't give a shit about they don't care. They don't have a conscience. They monopolize. You know how they said they don't want you picking from the tree of knowledge? That's because they want to dictate to you what good and evil is. Just shut your mouth and obey. So at Shungopavi, remember I mentioned Shungopavi? You had Shungopavi, and then you had Shungopavi and Santo Domingo and the Sandio Pueblo. So we have Shungopavi. The Native Americans and him were arguing in the morning, a heated argument, and he was pissed off, and apparently they were going to take him and kill him. But he wanted to be a martyr, so he was ready to fight the bastards. In the Philippines, there's a major slave trade in the Philippines, so no telling what this Joseph de Trujillo was into. They had a heated argument. They took a sword and they took out the first guy, but then the rest of them eventually overcame him. They disarmed him, took his fucking sword. And then they hogtied him. They put him on a stake and they roasted him over an open fire. Like a chestnut. The priest, Joseph de Trujillo. Old Joe, you son of a bitch. No, you just kept on being oppressive. You just kept saying you knew everything. Everybody's got to work for you, do for you. You kept sending us out there to get the fucking water while you fucked our wives. Kivas, return to the Kivas. Popay says, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, the Holy Trinity is dead. The Holy Trinity, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph are dead. They're all dead. And in fact, those old gods that we used to believe in, they're still alive. The churches, the remote ranches, every Spaniard everywhere got it. 3 miles south of Santa Fe, you had 500 Pueblo warriors who gathered together. Oh, shit. So you got the northern Pueblos and the southern Pueblos. All of Santa Fe is getting surrounded. The 500 Pueblo warriors, they had rocks and bows and arrows. They were from Pecos and San Cristobal, San Lazaro, San Marcos, and Cienega. So maybe the Cienega warriors are turning good. And is that San Lazaro? Some of these were turncoats, San Marcos, Pecos, Galisteo. That's cool. Galisteo, San Lazaro, San Cristobal, San Marcos, Cienega. They're coming back. They're totally redeeming themselves, the people from Pecos. And they advanced. 500 Pueblo warriors were 3 miles south of Santa Fe, and they advanced, and they burnt cornfields, and they looted outlying houses, and they advanced. What do they want? They want to kill the governor, and they want to kill all the Spanish people. So you had 500 Spanish men, and let's assume there's 3 dependents. That's what, 2,000 people? In total, there's 17,000 Pueblo natives. 17,000 total Pueblo natives plus 1 or 2,000 Utes, Mansos, Apaches, Navajos. It's 70 miles from Taos to Santa Fe. They used to domesticate turkeys, Juan Unsuddy. They used to domesticate turkeys, Juan Unsuddy. Francisco Xavier banned Cachina dances, you son of a bitch. We can't do Cachina dances. We can't do our worshiping in the kivas. Why do you do your stupid incense? All that incense fucking religion, you fucking pieces of shit. Isleta San Ildefonso. Francisco Xavier banned the Cachina dances, just like Footloose. You ain't gonna let us dance, you son of a bitch? 1675, there was an anti-sorcerer campaign. Francisco Xavier radicalized Popay. Who made who? Did Popay make Francisco Xavier? Did Francisco Xavier make Popay? Francisco Xavier had picked up Popay, 46 other medicine men. Francisco Xavier was Popay's personal enemy. There's about 1,000 Spanish in Santa Fe, so 500 Pueblo warriors versus 1,000 in Santa Fe, maybe 2,000. Damn, that's actually it's a pretty even fight. They could hear the war whoops. Ow! 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 Chief Juan is going to ride into Santa Fe. Chief Juan, a Pueblo chief from the Galisteo Pueblo. He was wearing a sash from one of the Galisteo. August 15th, he comes fully decked out for war. Chief Juan. I want to say Chief Juan. I found his first and last name somewhere else. Chief Juan Gargito. Chief Juan. One Love. So Chief One Love marches in with his war-painted, he's decked out for war. He's got himself a fucking sword and a dagger and a harquebus, a gun. And he's got a protective leather jacket. And what does Chief Juan, the Pueblo warrior, demand of Otterman? Otterman, the slave-driving fucking piece of shit, white supremacist, slave fucking trafficking of children, creepy-ass piece of shit. Well, Juan, the Pueblo warrior, said, give me back my wife and kids. Give me back my wife and kids. And not only do you give me back my wife and kids, but you release every single Native American that you got in your domain. This is an Emancipation Proclamation. Juan, the Pueblo warrior, told the Spaniards in Santa Fe, no, I'm sick and tired of your shit. You free them. You free the Apaches. You free the Navajos. You free the Utes. You free my Pueblo brothers. And you give me back my wife and kids back. Otterman must have been shaking in his boots. Motherfucker brought the slave trade back like Napoleon. He brought it back. Otterman was using Native Americans as slaves for the farms and the silver mines. From Pecos, Francisco Xavier abdicated. No, abducted. So he went around saying he was against sorcerer, but really he was the fucking devil, and he was a sick son of a bitch, and he would abduct Apaches from Pecos. Go to Pecos and abduct a bunch of Apaches, kidnap the Apaches, and sell them in Peril. There's a town called Peril, P-A-R-R-E-L, and there was a slave market. That's where the slave market was, in Peril. Francisco Xavier would abduct the Apaches from Pecos and sell them in Peril. It's crazy how all these pro-lifers don't seem to give a shit about Jordan Neely. Jordan Neely was killed. Where are you pro-lifers at, you fucking fake-ass pieces of shit? You ain't pro-life, you pieces of shit. You don't give a fuck about people, you pieces of fucking shit. You're going to say we can't pray in the kivas and you can't do our kachina dances anymore? Francisco Xavier. He was a terrible, greedy son of a bitch, a sly, fucking, always goddamn just... He banned the kachina dances. He banned the kivas. When they reconquered it, they built the churches over the kivas. There's probably a kiva underneath the damn church. Apolinar Martin. There's one naked Spaniard when he was running away from Santa Fe. He was naked. He had no clothes, no guns, and he was poor. But even Apolinar Martin had 3 slaves. And even though if they would have just gave up the slaves, they could have got their freedom. But no, Otterman was saying, we're going to keep the slaves. We don't give a shit. Otterman rode around with an entourage of 30. He had soldiers and black folks and slaves, which the black folks are the soldiers or the slaves or both. And there's black folks in America in 1680. That's exciting. Otterman refused to give up his slaves. There's 30 horses, So he didn't want to do his own work. Ottoman was a bunch of these slave fucking conquisted. They were lazy piles of shit. They didn't want to plant the fucking things. They wanted you to do all the work, and they wanted to take your labor. What would Jesus do, Candace, huh? Jesus would have no compassion. Always love your enemies. That's what Jesus says, right, Candace? Always love your enemies. Unless he's Jordan Neely and he's a dancer and he's just trying to entertain you and he's starving and hungry and naked and thirsty, then you don't give a shit, right? Just like, what would Jesus do? He would turn his back on lepers. He would turn his back on the prostitutes. He would turn his back on the tax collectors. He wouldn't pass the bread and fish out to the multitude. He would keep the bread and the fish all to himself. Isn't that what Jesus would do, Candace? Interesting how this character of Jesus is so much fucking better than these fucking murdering, raping, controlling pieces of shit. No wonder the MS-13. Where did MS-13 get their mantra? Rape, murder, control? Probably from the Spanish Catholics, from Ottoman, from these right-wing fascist piles of shit. August 17th, 1680. The siege is still going on. They cut the water off. So the Spaniards are really in a bind. You got 1,000 Spaniards and they owned what? 500 slaves. So that's what? $5 million? The Spaniards owes reparations to the brown folks of northern New Mexico. Spain owes reparations to Taos, New Mexico. The Picurus and the Taos, if anything, it's like, we kicked you out, just stay the fuck out. The Taos and the Picurus, they came from the north. 200 to 300 slaves ran off. They lost some of their slaves, but they kept most of their slaves. Think about that shit. They're sick of the oppression, sick of the fucking bullshit, sick of the humiliation, sick of the work, sick of the labor, sick of the exploitation. The Spanish people pushed too hard. They killed too much. They raped too much. They controlled too much. They didn't let the Native Americans breathe. They didn't let the Native Americans breathe free and breathe easy. The horde of masses need to breathe free and easy. So the Spanish was going to have to fight or run. And these are not just the warriors. The warriors were getting killed everywhere. There was some campaign where they tried to attack northwards, but then they got attacked and wind up, most of those guys died. But that was a distraction to let them sneak out the back. And so you got a convoy that's sneaking out the back, and they only went 3 miles away from Santa Fe. But essentially, the Native Americans, they had Santa Fe. The Native Americans, the Tewa, the Tewa, the Apache, the Comanche, the Utes, the Manso, the Navajo, the Utes and the Apaches, they took Santa Fe. Now they could domesticate their turkeys right at the capital. Hell, they should have just took the capital. They should just took over But instead, they went and returned to their traditional ways. Popay was real strong. And for a year or two, he got to run things the way he wanted to run things. But then he fell from favor, and then we're not going to hear from them, and then the Spanish are going to reconquest. And actually, that's how we hear about Colorado. 1694, Don Diego de Vargas is going to go into Colorado during the reconquest. So the Native Americans were setting fire to the church and the houses of Santa Fe. The water was cut off. The Spaniards said, fight or run. So on August 21st, 1680, the Spaniards ran. And they ran out 3 miles out. Casas Reales. The CIA killed JFK. There's beyond a reasonable doubt. Wow, beyond a reasonable doubt it was CIA. Huh, you think we should punish the CIA for killing our president? No, CIA. No, Tisha. Tisha, why are you stabbing my child? Why are you stabbing my son, Tisha? No, Tisha, don't put his body into a suitcase and throw him over a bridge into a creek in Florida, Tisha. CIA, what are you doing? No, CIA. No, CIA, don't murder JFK. What are you doing? No, that's the deep state. That's like the police. Oh, yeah, the police couldn't be against JFK. And the police have been in charge the whole time. And the CIA, I thought they were like spy agents for all the rest of the world. They aren't supposed to be our internal enemy. The CIA, Well, we need to get rid of them, right? They killed our fucking president, so we got to bust the CIA into a million pieces. We probably need some sort of international spy agency, but change it. Can't be the CIA anymore. I'll lead it. Beyond a reasonable doubt, that's 100% certainty. Okay, let's get back to the 100 Spanish with guns. Some of them took the front, some of them took the rear, and then the rest took to the sides. They weren't just trying to protect their people, but they were also trying to keep the slaves from running out. 200 to 300 slaves ran off. Well, shit, this is our chance. Let's get the hell out of here. So incredible. Ottoman and the Spaniards, they're like, no, we're going to keep our slaves. No way are we going to give up our slaves. What? You want us to do our own labor? I'd rather die. I'd rather die than to do my own labor. They went south on the Rio Grande. Isleta. They apparently went to Isleta, but the people of Isleta had already left. And they saw all the devastation. There was Pueblo damages on the south of Santa Fe. Churches were burnt and corn crops, horses, dead bodies, Pueblos, houses. And then within 2 months, the Spanish were out of New Mexico for the next 12 years. And the Spanish, 12 years, and the Spanish blamed the devil. The Salem witch trials was 1692, so that's right there. Vargas comes back into Colorado, 1694. He's the first European in Colorado. And that's it. Popay was Tewa. The Menendez brothers are probably going to get a new trial, and the fifth cop of the George Floyd arrest was convicted. So, great news. The revolution has been won. Now, let's get ourselves 3 branches of government, a constitution. Let's elect ourselves a president. No, we just won ourselves. We got 100 civil liberties. Let's take the freedoms of Colorado and of America, combine them together. Clearly, this system that we have right now is not working. When peaceful revolution becomes impossible, violent revolution becomes inevitable.